Story number 1. You may judge me when you hear this story to the end, but what happened with my mother-in-law literally saved and revitalized me, giving me back my zest for life. If you are not ready for this turn of events, then stop listening immediately, because there will be too many heated revelations next. That afternoon, I stayed late again. The client got up from the couch so that I explored everything I hadn't already had time to explore, but such open appeal in women repulsed me. She'd been coming to my massage sessions for 2 months now and had been trying to hit on me in every way possible, and I pretended not to notice. At home, I was literally sniffed out by my wife. She was looking for nail marks on my back and hickeys in hidden places. In her imagination, I was doing it with all my clients 10 times a day. It's worth noting that my wife and I haven't had physical intimacy in a long time. On the basis of constant quarrels and scandals did not become an intimacy of the soul. I did not want to divorce her, and I did not want to cheat on her with some stray girl, because before we were happy, and I still hoped that our rifts themselves will be resolved, and we will become kin to each other. Our marriage was going down the drain. I reluctantly came home, took overtime jobs just to stay out longer. This is such a paradox. With my wife, I was bad, but I did not want to leave her. I will understand only someone who is in my place, and someone who has never been in a dead-end relationship and cannot imagine how endless feeling of hopelessness in the soul. So that evening, my wife dressed up in a size less nightie and smeared some cream on her face so generously that I began to worry that she would slip off the bed at night. She laid down next to me and decided to talk. "Mason, my mom wants to get a back massage, and I thought I'd let her come to you. You're a good specialist. She trusts you." "Sure, no problem. Let her go." "When does she want to start?" "Tomorrow would be good." "Okay, have her come in at 7. I'll have my last client out by then." "Okay, I'll tell her." "Thank you." Olga turned away from me without kissing me goodnight, as it always happened in the first years of our married life, and soon fell asleep. The next day was again a succession of backs, arms, necks, and fifths of my clients and female clients. By evening, my own arms and legs were humming from the constant exertion, but I still had 2 more clients, the one who liked to frame and my mother-in-law. The first came today in leopard lingerie. She was lying on the couch with her legs spread, but I stubbornly ignored her hints. I stretched and warmed her back, and she relaxed, but soon the session came to an end. The client sat up so that the straps were falling off her shoulders and looked at me appealingly. If only I were a little less resistant. But then the door to my office swung open, and in she walked. My mother-in-law was a petite, attractive woman with large green eyes. Today she had taken her golden brown hair into a high hairstyle, exposing her white neck with a cute mole just above her collarbones. My mother-in-law looked around the office, lingered on my client, and something predatory flashed in her usually calm eyes. "Hello, Mason." The mother-in-law stepped forward and, pretending not to notice the client's bag standing on the floor, kicked it heartily with her Swede boot. "Oh, I'm sorry, please. I didn't do it on purpose," Tatiana said. "You should be more careful," the seductress replied. Her plans were clearly interfered with. And as for me, I was even glad of the arrival of my mother-in-law, who saved me from additional communication with a possessed woman. Under my mother-in-law's watchful gaze, the leopard-clad beauty got dressed and left the office. "Wipe the place clean after her," my mother-in-law said dismissively. I grinned and changed the sheet on the couch. "Tell me what's wrong with your back." "You know, it's like there are some clamps in my lower back and up here." My mother-in-law pointed to the area of my back between my shoulder blades. "Well, we're going to remove your clamps." "Take everything off and lie down on the couch," I said, and then I softly turned on some relaxing music and turned on the aroma lamp. In the meantime, my mother-in-law took off her Angora sweater and remained in her red lace top. I had not expected her to wear such a thing, but I was pleasantly surprised. My mother-in-law took the top off and placed it on the chair next to the couch before lying on her stomach and purring blissfully. All day on my feet, finally lying down. She said. I pulled out my best cream, which I used only on exceptional occasions, and walked over to the couch where my wife's mom was seated. Rubbing my hands together, I touched her skin, and she flinched as if she'd been electrocuted. Are you okay? I asked. Yeah, it's just been a while since anyone touched me. I smirked, imagining what would have happened if she had been given, for example, a breast massage. Tatiana's husband disappeared 5 years ago. One day he just didn't come home from work. We searched for him with the whole family, together with the police and volunteers, but there were no results. One night, Tatiana received a phone call from someone. At first, the someone breathed heavily into the receiver and then said one single word, sorry. My mother-in-law thinks that her husband just ran away from her and did not have the courage to say goodbye properly. After that, she was all alone. I didn't understand why. She looked younger than her years. She had a beautiful figure, a thin waist, a size 4 bust, on which men were always staring at her wherever she appeared, a firm and neat 5th point on which the eyes also stopped. Now she was lying with that very point up, and I confess, I stared at her all the time. Her skin was as soft as satin sheets, and it felt good to massage it. Tatiana relaxed already 2 minutes after I touched her for the first time. Mason, you have golden hands, she said. Yes, I even have such an award. I won it in a professional skills contest, I replied, nodding at the statuette on the shelf. You must have a lot of clients. I'm not complaining. They pass it on to each other somehow, so I'm not out of work, I said. Do you give your wife a massage? I did once a long time ago. Not anymore, I said. Why is that? She refuses. She says that after all these, as she puts it, girls of easy behavior, I should not touch her. My mother-in-law laughed. But she doesn't know why she refuses. I'd go to such sessions every day, not just once. Here you just a few minutes massage, and I'm so relaxed, as if I slept through the night. For today, our session is over. My mother-in-law got up from the couch, without turning to me, but I had time to see her upward sway. She dressed leisurely, as if not wanting to leave my office, which she said later in direct text while I was driving her home in the car. It's so nice at your place. It's so relaxing. It's like being at a spa. Come back tomorrow at the same time. Olga was waiting for me at home. Today she was calmer than usual for some reason. How was the session? Your mom has several problem points. We'll try to work through them all, I said. You are my gold, my wife said, and kissed me unexpectedly on the cheek. The next evening I was waiting for my mother-in-law for some reason. Yesterday's session, i.e., as well as she, liked it. It was pleasant to be in her company. It was easy to be with her. Some light aura emanated from her. She was once again a seductress in front of her. Today she requested a massage of the inside of my thighs, probably hoping I wouldn't hold back. And I have to admit, I was on edge. As the client left the office, I heard someone talking to her. I moved closer to the door and recognized my mother-in-law's voice. Don't come here again, or I'll pull your hair out, she said. How dare you? How dare I? And here we go. The door was ajar, and I saw my mother-in-law clutching at the seductress's hair. She shrieked and tried to fight back, but she failed. The client corrected herself, and I thought I would never see her again. The mother-in-law, a little out of breath and flushed, came and the client retreated, and I thought I would never see her again. My mother-in-law, a little out of breath and flushed, entered the office, said hello, and tried to tell from my eyes whether I had seen what was happening in the hallway. I gave her a completely nonchalant look, and she sighed in relief. I tried to remember the last time a woman had fought over me, and couldn't. It was probably the first such incident in my life. My mother-in-law took off her lemon-colored blouse and folded it on the chair, leaving me in my silk black underwear. Would you please turn on the music like you did yesterday? She asked. I turned on a CD and lit some incense. My mother-in-law lay on the couch in anticipation. I rubbed cream on my hands, applied it to her body, and touched her. I could tell from her reaction that she wanted it. It felt good to touch her delicate thin neck, her graceful shoulders, to run my fingertips along her shoulder blades and press and demandingly massage her sides. Massage is the most sensual part, and both my mother-in-law and I were attuned to each other today. Suddenly, my mother-in-law let out a barely audible long sigh. "Are you feeling ill?" I asked excitedly. "I'm fine," my mother-in-law said and rolled over on the couch. I stared at her top, and she smiled. "Your massage is torture for me because you are such a handsome, virile man with gentle and strong hands," she said. I was no longer able to hold back and sank my lips into her mole on her neck. After that, what my wife suspected me of every day happened several times on the couch. Well, her accusations would not be empty today. My mother-in-law and I got the maximum possible pleasure from this session. After everything, I took her home and made an appointment for the next evening at 6. She had deprived me of one client, and she would have to make up for it. In the evening, when we were already lying down with my wife, she told me that her mom was very pleased with the session, and then suddenly she timidly asked me to give her a massage. I didn't refuse, even though I was tired from the day and things seemed to be starting to warm up between my wife and me. I don't know what will happen next, but I stopped feeling indifferent to what was happening, and my life began to color again. My affair with Tatiana continued for several more exciting weeks. Our secret trysts were passionate and intense. She brought out a side of me I didn't even know existed: adventurous, uninhibited, insatiable. I was counting the minutes until the next session. Things got better at home too, as Olga and I rekindled our emotional and physical connection. We had some of the best conversations in our marriage. We made love with a tenderness I thought was lost forever. There were times when I forgot anything was wrong at all. I did my best to shut it all out, to be fully present in every relationship. But late at night, as I lay awake, filled with endorphins and the ecstasy of our dates with Tatiana, doubts crept in. I realized that I could no longer cheat on two women who had become very dear to me. So one cool fall evening, after Tatiana came out of my office, flushed and radiant, I asked Olga to take a walk with me in the park across the street. The sun was setting, casting everything in a reddish golden light. We sat down on a bench by the pond, the leaves rustling around us. I took a deep breath and told Olga the whole truth about Tatiana and me, about how our emotional romance had grown into a physical one, how being with her had awakened a vitality and passion in me that I feared had disappeared, about how some days I felt like Tatiana and massage were all that kept me going. Naturally, Olga erupted, her face a kaleidoscope of anger, betrayal, devastation. I braced myself for her to get up and leave, to kick me out of the house. But after the first outburst, she just sat there, staring at the darkening water. When Olga finally spoke again, her voice was calm and steady. She said it wasn't my fault that the intimacy and joy in our marriage had disappeared. My betrayal, as painful as it was, had given us the opportunity to repair our relationship or end it for good. In the thickening twilight, we talked for what seemed like hours. Olga asked thoughtful questions about my relationship with Tatiana, not attacking or defending, but seeking to understand. I answered openly and honestly, feeling her sympathy rather than judgment of the situation. As we got up to leave, soaked through from the cool night air, I felt strangely hopeful. Olga took my hand, intertwining her fingers with mine, and we walked slowly toward the house. Final decisions had not yet been made, but the fragile trust between us was being rekindled. Over the next few days, Olga initiated several long heart-to-heart conversations about the history of our relationship, our shared and separate dreams, and our sexual needs. Sometimes we laughed, sometimes we cried, sometimes we made love. It was like falling in love all over again. I ended my relationship with Tatiana as gently as I could. She was devastated, refusing to return my calls or see me for the first few weeks. But eventually she came to the office, and we were able to talk privately. I apologized for misleading her and hurting her. She apologized for knowingly engaging in an affair with her daughter's husband. The road has not always been smooth, but Olga and I continue to cherish our rediscovered intimacy. We make time for weekly dates, and when we can, get away for short weekends, leaving work and technology behind. Next month, on our 15th anniversary of dating, we'll renew our vows in a small sunset ceremony in the same park where I confessed my infidelity. Tatiana, who has become close to Olga again, will attend the celebration. We look forward to being all together and forgetting forever the problems of the past. Story number 2. John, laden with bags, packages, and other belongings, struggled to get off the crowded bus and looked around. He should have been greeted, but there was no orchestra or red carpet to mark his arrival. Nor were there any cars belonging to those who were greeting him. He didn't feel like dragging himself to his mother-in-law's house in the heat under the weight of the load, so John looked around once more for people to greet him. At that moment, a motorcycle, familiar to him as every bolt and screw, roared into the square in front of the general store, which was the center of the village and the station square where young people gathered in the evenings. Behind the wheel sat John's mother-in-law, Betty, a woman in her early 40s with a good figure. Jumping off the rumbling monster, she hugged her son-in-law tightly around the neck and kissed him on both cheeks and lips. Taking his luggage, she stowed him in the baby stroller attached to the motorcycle. Along the way, she asked John several hundred questions, not waiting for answers before getting back on the motorcycle. And as soon as John's butt touched the seat, she raced briskly toward home. John learned that his father-in-law, Tom, had drunkenly broken his leg and was now lying in an area hospital, all wrapped up in bandages and casts. And there was no one to mow the lawn or do any other yard work. So, Betty called her brother-in-law from town. She knew John was handy and handy. It was decided to send John to the bathhouse to wash first, then have dinner and do everything else, which John knew meant a sleepless night and Betty's passionate embrace. Ever since John's wife had given birth, Betty kept a close eye on her favorite son-in-law, making sure he didn't catch any illness. She had been filling in for her daughter to keep John happy. Betty was attractive, with a spunky temperament, a pleasant contrast to John's wife. As soon as her son-in-law showed up on the doorstep after work, Betty would feed him, give him water, and then somehow help him relax completely. And John accepted such attention from his mother-in-law, unable to lead a normal married life when his traumatized father-in-law was most likely passed out drunkenly at home. And so, nestled on a bench in the bathhouse, John warmed his bones, chasing the fatigue from his body. The door opened and his favorite mother-in-law Betty walked in. John realized that this time, with his father-in-law lying in the hospital, Betty would work twice as hard as usual to the point of exhaustion. After all, with Tom incapacitated, they would have to work twice as hard. Betty, of course, did not give John a moment's peace. Betty gave John a meaningful smile and, without hesitation, began to undress. Even though he had seen her in a bathing suit many times before, John still marveled at her slim, trim body as she walked toward him. Even though she was already in her 40s, she looked much younger. "It's been too long, darling," Betty purred, running her hands over John's shoulders. "Since Tom is in the hospital and your wife is recovering with a new baby, it falls to me to take care of you." John felt the fatigue fade away as his mother-in-law's experienced hands eased the tension in his muscles. By the time she joined him on the bench, he was already ravishing with anticipation. They passionately experienced joy together, as if making up for lost time, and their cries echoed off the cedar walls. Afterward, John sank into a state of blissful relaxation. The bathhouse door opened again, and he expected to see Betty returning with treats. Instead, a bulky, bearded man, a military David, entered. "I'm sorry," I thought. "I was just leaving," John stammered, grabbing a towel. But David waved away his apology, his eyes traveling quickly over John's naked body. "There's no need to rush. You look tense. Let me help you relax," David growled. Before John could react, the large man was on top of him, crushing him with his weight. John screamed and tried to break free, but David held him in an iron grip. Story number 3. This story took place in a small German town. My mother-in-law pulled her lower back and asked me to visit her twice a day to walk the dog. I did not refuse since I was on vacation. Unfortunately, my wife could not go to my mom's house as she was working, so it was up to me to stop by in the morning and evening. Admittedly, I grumbled a bit, but it wasn't necessary. I approached my mother-in-law and she handed me a pug leash. Her waist was wrapped in a scarf, but the rest of her outfit was anything but ordinary. A see-through blouse with a revealing neckline. As they say, feel free to stare. I glanced at my mother-in-law, marveling that she wasn't the least bit embarrassed to be so naked in front of her son-in-law. I took the pug out for a walk and brought my faithful companion home. However, my mother-in-law insisted that I stay for a cup of coffee before leaving. I figured, why not? She chatted non-stop, mostly complaining about her back, nothing out of the ordinary. We agreed that I would return in the evening to walk her dog one more time. Throughout the day, I couldn't help but think about my mother-in-law's attractive figure. My mind wandered to unnecessary thoughts. I won't deny it. I just couldn't control myself. That's how my brain works. In the evening, I went to my mother-in-law's house to walk the adorable pug. Once again, she wouldn't let me leave. She graciously invited me over for coffee and pastries. We sat down at the table and had a nice conversation. Then my mother-in-law asked me if I could give her a back massage. I agreed, as I knew something about it from a course I took when I was young. I told her to lie down on the bed. She lay down, put on a crusty nightgown, and walked past me without any hesitation. I glared at her. I started kneading her back, and as I did so, I couldn't help but notice the beauty that lay before me. I honestly didn't expect her to be this good. She was a mature and stunning woman, wrinkle-free and with fresh skin. I mentally gave her the highest praise. From the back, she didn't look much different from a young girl, except that her face gave away her age. I couldn't resist giving her a massage, which wasn't limited to her lower back. My mother-in-law moaned with pleasure, and the sound took me by surprise. What an incredible massage it was. Interestingly, my mother-in-law was not embarrassed in the least. She acted as if a lower back massage could only end like that. I wasn't worried either. As they say, it happens to everyone. That's the way our bodies work. If it flares up, it flares up. My mother-in-law got out of bed, fixed her shirt that had slipped off her shoulder, and tidied her hair. "I feel much better," she whispered, patting herself on the back, around the tailbone. "You warmed me up good. I'm even sweating." My mother-in-law was right. She felt good from my hands. We sat with her for a while, and I went to my wife's house. At home, my wife asks if you walked my mom's dog. "Of course," I said. "Of course I did." "As agreed?" "Aren't you tired yet?" "What's there to be tired of?" I answered a question with a question. I went to my mother-in-law's house again. She greeted me with a happy smile and looked even more cheerful than last time. As usual, she gave me a leash. I walked the dog, came back. My mother-in-law is already lying on the couch. Anyone can see what she was implying. This time I wanted to torture her, so I didn't give her a massage right away. Just sat down next to her, and that was it. She was breathing intermittently, poking her fingers in her lower back, remembering the last massage. I yielded to her request, kneaded and pinched, not forgetting the most important thing, the climax, so to speak, of the whole process. My mother-in-law was satisfied and rolled off the bed as a young girl. "What? Back does not hurt?" I asked with a sly smile. a little pulling. In the evening, everything repeated itself. A walk with the dog and a more gentle massage for my mother-in-law. Afterwards, she looked at me with a completely different look. I realized that the massage not only stopped her back pain, but she felt a very strong warmth in her lower abdomen. My mother-in-law's claim that she could not sleep due to back pain was clearly false. It was obvious to me that she was deceiving us, as her mobility contradicted her supposed condition. Even though I knew the truth, I played along and expressed sympathy for her, realizing that I was a participant in her love farce. However, this situation made me realize that my mother-in-law's health was not going to improve. Surprisingly, this discovery did not alarm me. On the contrary, I saw an opportunity to help an elderly woman who needed help, even though she was neither sick nor old. It was all but an appearance. People like her are rare, and I wasn't about to look for another. After all, why would I need another mother-in-law when I already have one? This was a question my wife asked me daily. How's my mom's back? Doesn't it hurt? I pretended I didn't understand, but how could I know? It turned out that very useful to me initial massage skills. What would I do without them? Without these skills, I would not enjoy massaging mother-in-law's lower back. And not only, this is not a simple matter, as they say, there would be a desire. And my mother-in-law and I had the desire, you can be sure. Mother-in-law got into the taste, and I did not lag behind her. I also liked it. One day I made a decision to subtly convey to her a thought, realized that further this cannot continue. In a trembling voice, my mother-in-law asked, "What can't go on?" I explained, "The fact that your back pain won't go away. That might make your daughter suspicious, considering I've been walking your harmful dog all week. Oh, and my wife might start to suspect something." After a moment's thought, the mother-in-law replied, "Okay, I won't ask you to do that again." She blushed and admitted, as if I don't know it myself, "This is absurd. But then, how can we see each other?" This question kept my mother-in-law on her toes. "If my back doesn't hurt, then we won't have to see each other anymore." "Let's solve it this way," she suggested. "Let's pretend my doctor has prescribed a treatment that requires me to spend more time in bed. That could be an excuse for me to come to you like I'm walking the dog. I'm going to the hospital in the morning. Good mother-in-law, she always finds a way, especially when it comes to pleasure." That's what I told my wife. I said, "Your mom has been prescribed warming treatments." When I said that, I fake sighed. "I'll have to visit her before work." "You can easily say no," my wife said. "Let her friends walk the dog in the morning." "Aren't you ashamed?" I said with feeling. We are close people. The wife was embarrassed silent. She realized that she was a bad daughter, since she was ready to throw her mother's dog on the neighbors. I pretended that even though I didn't want to, I would keep it up. So the meetings with my beloved mother-in-law continue. Massage long ago stopped doing. My back does not hurt, and a lot of time is taken up by this procedure. We have other pleasant things to do, for which we need more time. So my secret meetings with my alluring mother-in-law continued under the guise of warming procedures. I would arrive every morning before work, escort my wife out with a kiss on the cheek, and assure her that I would take care of her poor mom. As soon as she was out the door, the real fun began. My mother-in-law greeted me in increasingly provocative outfits, thin satin gowns that hugged every curve, lace negligees that were so sheer that you could almost see everything underneath. She pulled me straight to the bedroom, where we fell into bed, completely forgetting about walking the dog. Every day, our time together became more daring. Insatiable, we began to risk being caught doing adult things around the house, and especially a lot in the kitchen while my wife was at work. The threat of exposure only heightened our excitement. We just couldn't tear ourselves away from each other. One day, my wife came home from work early, having been sick. My mother-in-law was visiting. I nearly had a heart attack when I saw her car pull up in front of the house while I was vigorously pleasuring her mother from behind in the kitchen among the pots and pans. We rushed to put on our clothes, and my mother-in-law suppressed her screams of pleasure just in time. The wife entered the apartment and did not expect to see her mother. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Yes, I came to my favorite son-in-law. Thank you to say that did not abandon me when I was bad. And back pain. He helped me a lot then." In the evening in bed, my wife noticed how tired I looked. "You really don't need to keep helping my mom so much if it wears you out, honey. I know you're doing this as a favor to me." I assured her that I was happy to help the family, bestowing her with a sly smile that she didn't understand. And so our story continues, and there is no end to my passionate romance with this insatiable, creative mother-in-law. Story number 4. "Angela, would you like to try out our new bath? I already heated it up this morning, and we can enjoy some more delicious homemade wine." Unfortunately, we ended up drinking more than 2 bottles. As the conversation progressed, it became more and more frank. After drinking wine, I wanted to talk a lot. Angela, who is my mother-in-law and recently celebrated her 47th birthday, joined us. We began discussing the meaning of life and family, considering her husband passed away over 3 years ago. It was evident that she was not giving up and was actively looking for a partner to fulfill her marital responsibilities. "Why do you think marriages are falling apart these days?" she asked, not even bothering to listen to the arguments made by my wife Sarah and me. She continued, "It's all about boredom and the unwillingness of couples to grow in all aspects. It's like a hunger. At first, you just want to fill your stomach, but then you get satiated and lose interest in the delicacies. Similarly, after 2 years of marriage, a man starts looking for thrills and desires another woman. If no one finds out about it, the husband will be satisfied and the wife will remain happy." These conversations with my mother-in-law made me see her in a different light. Unbeknownst to us, the conversation turned to our own relationship. Angela, my mother-in-law, identified signs of incipient boredom in our marriage and suggested we find a remedy. I asked her how, and she said, "Let's go to the bathhouse together. You wash me first, son-in-law, and then your wife." However, my wife Sarah did not want to go to the bathhouse after drinking and preferred to watch TV instead. So it was decided that I would go to the bathhouse with my mother-in-law, me alone. But it was for the best, I thought. As soon as we entered the bathhouse, the pleasant sensations began. My mother-in-law showered me with compliments, praising me for being a handsome son-in-law. Then she suggested that I lie down first while she washed me. Wrapped in the moisture of the steam room, I followed her instructions and lay down. My mother-in-law began by running the washcloth over my back a few times, gradually intensifying the motions. After a while, she handed me the washcloth and said, "Go ahead, son-in-law, wash my back. Just don't disappoint me casting a strange look at me." Eventually, my mother-in-law lay down, and I, holding the washcloth in my hands, stood there pondering her words. The atmosphere was pleasant, and I confidently declared, "Now, Angela, I'm going to give you a wonderful massage that will make you truly experience the art of taking a bath." Taking a loofah in my hands, I began to vigorously massage her back. During this process, everything around me seemed hazy. Everyone knows that you should drink after the bath, not before. In the midst of this madness, an incident occurred between my mother-in-law and me, which it is better not to tell my wife about. Shortly afterward, my mother-in-law kissed me, expressed her gratitude, and left the bathhouse with a smile. As she left, my legs gave out, and I sank down on the bench, exhausted. Reflecting on the situation, I thought about the advantages of having my own bathhouse. However, the thought of how to behave with my mother-in-law kept running through my mind.